And yeah, what I want to do is just make sure you have time to ask any questions, look at your numbers. You've got the sheet. So I'll pop it in the chat if you haven't made a copy. Just make sure you make a copy of that sheet because, yeah, then you've got your own. And if you start editing your own copy, everyone will have access to that. So let me share my screen. Can everyone see this? Cool.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I'm just going to minimize, pin myself. Okay, so we're ready to become measurement queen. And I think I had some males join, so kings as well. But yeah, so what I really want to achieve from this session today is just giving you time and allowing you space to look at your numbers, to look at where people are coming from to your website or to your main call to action on your content channels so that you can start making decisions on where you focus your energy. Because I think a lot of the times we're showing up on channels that maybe aren't super aligned to our business, but we just think we have to be on them because we've been told to be on these channels. And often it's not the case. I have a perfect example from my own personal experience, and I will share those, but I'll introduce myself because there are some new people that have signed up, which is so exciting. I love welcoming new people. So if you're watching the replay, welcome to this space of the internet. So I'm Mariah. I'm the founder of Content Queen, which is a content marketing agency and also an educational business for online business owners and entrepreneurs. So this is sort of the educational side of my business. We've been running since 2019, which just has absolutely flown. I started as a one-woman show and have expanded my team out to 7. And yeah, we service entrepreneurs and startups from more of like a content creation side of things. And then I also help entrepreneurs with mentoring and courses and sort of online programs and sessions. And I create a lot of content. If you follow me on any channels, I'm always creating content. I have my own podcast, and I'm also a digital nomad. So I'm trying to do this all and travel when I can. But my own story with my measurement journey was when I actually started looking at the numbers properly and realizing that blogging was actually my main traffic generated to my website through Google. And I wasn't really paying that much attention to my blog. And then I realized, oh, okay, you know, social media is great and all these other channels are really good, but it's directly coming from Google. So I need to focus my energy there. And I started outsourcing my blogs, giving myself more room to write my own blogs as well, and really started a blogging strategy that made sense and could lead people to other offerings within my blog, and started focusing more attention on my website and getting that. So I'm getting that redone as well this year. So my projects were based around the things that were working in my business. I also realized that through my looking at the data, that email marketing was really, really powerful in my business as a selling tool. So generating people to my email list was super important. And that's when I made changes in the way I marketed on Instagram, on the focus that I have. And I've been able to grow that email list in a different way and be able to nurture my audience that are more aligned to me rather than just directly from platforms like social media. So that's a little bit about me, but I would love for everyone to introduce themselves. I'll just going to stop sharing so everyone can, because we have a smaller group. So if everyone wants to, or you can just pop in the chat, whatever you feel comfortable with. But if anyone would like to introduce themselves and their business, I think it's a really good way to showcase what you do as well. And then we can learn about each other's businesses and I can help with the sort of brainstorming and workshopping. So can everyone either go off mute or jump in the chat and introduce yourself, where you're from, what your business is and what you do.
Where'd everybody go?
Jenny.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jenny, and I own a an awesome business. I am a personal growth coach, also a sponsored athlete. I'm a cyclist. I work primarily with women, which is a pretty badass business in itself. But I help individuals pretty much work on self-doubt and living life authentically. Love what I do. Pretty much do a lot of mindset work, empowerment, do a lot of wellness stuff. But yeah, just what you see is what you get. I'm pretty transparent in my coaching. I love what I do, and it's just simple and fun is the way I like to make it. So that's me.
I love it. I love it. Sabrina, you're off mute too. So would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So sorry, I took the video off, but can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, great. So yeah, thank you for the invitation, Maria. I feel very pleased to be here with all of you. So my name on Instagram is Sabrina Juliette. Official now, I have changed it. I'm a NLP and self-love coach. That's what I do. I help women to get awareness, on their self-love discovery journey. Yeah. So the female avatar, it's really owners and female entrepreneur. Yeah. And yeah, so I really enjoy to have this title that I just discovered it 2 months ago. And I feel that my audience feels really connected more with it now. So yeah, so I'm looking forward for the rest. And yeah, so Maria, so about the marketing journey, I would like to focus on the email marketing and also on my newsletter and on my blog also. Yeah. So
love it.
So yeah, nice to be with all of you tonight.
I love it. We just had a new joiner. We're just introducing ourselves. You can do it in the chat, and you can also, as Jenny did, popped in her social media. But thank you, Sabrina. So we had Jade. She's the CEO of Strategize with Creativity. She actually has an awesome hashtag guide, which I downloaded recently. So 10 out of 10 recommend. And yes, so if anyone else, so Jane, thank you for joining. Your name just changed, so that helps a lot. But yeah, if anyone wants to jump off mute, Leanne, I know you might be juggling a few things this morning, so all good if you can't unmute. But yeah, just introduce yourself. Oh, you're here.
Sorry. Sorry, I was just like I was just breastfeeding, trying to put Mickey Mouse Clubhouse on now. I'm like, doing all the things. So my video is off. I don't even, my phone is over. Okay, yep, now you can hear Ari, of course. So my name is Leanne. I'm currently on maternity leave. I was in a 9-to-5. I was coaching and I had an event logistics business all at the same time. Mariah was helping me with all of my social media and all of my content and all of my analytics, which was brilliant. And at the moment, I'm sort of going through a bit of a transition period and figuring out where my next step is, because obviously having when I was doing 3 things, I realized I was doing too much when I fell pregnant, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to stop doing all of the things and start to just be for a change and maybe figure out I realized, I think, that my nervous system was about to crash and I was trying to do too many things at the same time. So what I learned from obviously having Mariah in my corner was that, like my blog and podcast, when she was going through analytics with me, it was crazy to see all the traffic coming from there and from Pinterest as well. So it's these sort of platforms that you perhaps maybe don't focus on enough. And I'm working on sort of my podcast at the moment and doing a few things in the background as just sort of thinking about next steps. So they're my focus because I know the benefit they have, obviously, on driving traffic and also just in the process of sharing my story as I'm a solo mama. So I'm figuring out sort of perhaps doing a solo mama circle is my mission for this year. So that's me.
Thank you for
I
sharing.
probably just rambled on. Sorry, I'm like in my
No,
pajamas doing 15 things at once.
love the ramble. Love the ramble. Thank you.
Love it.
Amazing. Yeah. And I
Thanks.
think too, it's interesting what Leanne says. It's those sort of like channels that you don't realize are actually really benefiting your business in multiple ways. And they're probably not getting the love. But we had Laurie, who's from the UK, and she is a content marketing support, business owners with social media, email marketing, blogging. Love that. And Jane is from Sydney and RSPCA Australia, which is so cool. I love that. Comms, head of comms. I used to work in comms when I was in corporate, and I absolutely loved working in comms. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again because we're go back into the presentation. Okay. So when you all signed up, I gave you access to this template. Now, let me know if you don't have it. I'll pop it in the chat so that you can all get a copy. Just make sure you make a copy. So you can just click here, click make a copy, and this can be yours. Now, there are some channels missing just because this was made for my membership based off the main channels that we're all been using. So you can always add in the channels that are missing for, oh, why did that only copy half? Okay, great. For the channels that you want to start analyzing. But this is a really good way. And this, when I first started and I had mine, did not look like this. I have developed it over time. But what I want you to do on this session is allow some time to go through this, and we can kind of hot seat this, ask questions, tell us about the channels that are working, but we can start brainstorming what you can do in Q2 to make these more effective. And also at the back of this, now I measure a lot of different things as well in my sort of content marketing. So obviously there's the main ones, Instagram, the website. Now I do this weekly. You don't have to do this weekly. It is just part of my Friday admin. I go in, I look at the numbers, I make a few assumptions. I might make some comments I might use the comment section and add some comments for when I look at it each month, because I go into more detail each month, and I'm happy to share more into the process of how I do my monthly check-ins, but you can ask me any questions about that as well. We've got podcasting, blogs. Blogging is sort of just getting the views down of each blog. Now, this is interesting because when you do it at the end of the year, a lot of because you've got evergreen content with your blogs, this will be a different number from when you've done it each month. And you might, post a blog on the 31st of the month and then go in on the, a couple of days later, and you might have low views. So that's why it's important to do it at the end of the year and work out a general average of the blogs, because I think that's what's really important. Email marketing, I do email marketing as a whole each month, but then each week I look at my newsletters and I look at what the subject lines that are working well, the links people are clicking on, what did I do it's all about making assumptions of what you have done and then trying to, make changes or go different ways. Now, Jane, I know you're in comms. It's very interesting because I actually used to treat do you do internal, external comms? I'd just love to know, because I used to track our intranet when I worked in comms. I couldn't track the open rates of our weekly newsletters internal, but it's the same. You can treat, if you've got an internal audience, you can treat them like in the same way you would as a customer, looking at what they like, what they don't like in terms of content you deliver them. So it's all relative. It's just a different audience. I do look at my sequences as well. An email sequence, if I have an automated email going out for a freebie or something, I don't do this always, but I like to check in and see what emails track well, what ones don't. Can I take an email out if it's no one's opening it? So because we create this content, and if it's not getting the traction that we want it to, it's not necessarily like on Instagram likes, it's looking at what the objective of that piece of content was, and is it serving its purpose? You might not get a lot of likes on a post, but it might generate website traffic, and that's what you've asked for. It might generate saves. I find this so interesting. My quotes on my page don't get as many likes, but they get saves. And that's what I've asked people to do. So it's serving its purpose. And then we've got Pinterest, of course. But what I also track is networking. What networking did I do in that week? And this isn't content related, but most of my networking or my networks then go and look at my content after I've, met them or anything like that. So Jane says both internal and external. But yeah, it's so interesting. It kind of, when I started my business I was side hustling when I was working in corporate, and when I sort of got the marketing concept for my business, because I was sort of doing marketing as well, I then realized I could apply the same things to my internal audience. So it was quite cool. I also track collaborations, because collaborations is creating content on other platforms. So if you go live with someone, it's not tracking that you can track their numbers. I mean, you can only look at them. If you go live with someone, you could probably only look at the vanity metrics, but just writing down who I've collaborated with in that time. And that's when you can see, okay, if you went on a podcast and it went live, did you notice more traffic to your website? Because we can't actually measure those things exactly, but we can measure around that time frame. Okay, I went on a podcast with this person, and then all of a sudden I saw a spike in my traffic to my website. So that's when you can kind of make those assumptions that collaborations work really well for me. So I'm going to do more collaborations. This is putting these numbers down is not so you can just look at them. It's so you can start making assumptions. And then, of course, the check-in. This is what I do at the end of each quarter. I go through each channel. As I said, you can add your channels, what worked, what didn't, some observations that I want to make, some assumptions that I'm going to make off that, and then what am I going to test from that channel in the next quarter? And that's how we start to formulate the goals. So does anyone have any questions about this template? Also, I just wanted to note with Instagram, because Instagram provides a lot more analytics, I track the top posts as well. And how this works is, so for example, what post got the most website clicks? I try to look for themes. I try to look at the top, like what the top post was, why was that the top post? I mean, I don't necessarily have to write everything detailed, but I look at it as a whole. Usually, for example, your reach and impressions is generally the same post. The engagements might be the same post, but then you can just start looking at what post did really well in that month. And I started to learn things like every time I did a how-to reel, it worked really well. So I'm going to do more of those. And it just helps you plan out your content for the following months or the following quarter, because you know what's working. But yeah, Instagram is a little bit more in depth. I also calculate engagement rate. So that is the content interactions for that time divided by your followers times 100. So I can write that in the chat if you need it. And then also Instagram gives you sort of an average, like how many accounts did you reach in that time period that were your followers? And then what ones weren't your followers? There was a video that I sent you guys on how to look at the behind the scenes of Instagram Insights, because I know that's a little bit more in depth. But when you look at the reach of followers, this allows you to look at, okay, X amount % of my followers see each post. And that's when you can start to work out conversion rates. So does anyone know, this is sort of more sales, but does anyone know the average conversion rate? Does anyone have any idea? Unmute yourself or pop it in the chat, because it's quite surprising. But I'll put in the formula that I use for engagement rate. So that is the content interactions or engagements divided by followers times 100. They say the average engagement rate is 3%, but I think it should be higher. So a conversion rate, no one has said anything, but a conversion rate is around 2 to 3%. So you can work out conversion rates on if you've had X amount of people go to your website, and you can work it out the exact same. So it's the same formula as this. But what you would do is you would do bio clicks or clicks to your website divided by your profile visits, because that's how many people are landing on your Instagram page, times 100. And then you can work out roughly your conversion rate. It's probably a lot higher than you think. If you think, oh, I haven't had that many clicks to my my website from Instagram, go back and look at your conversion rate, because that might be really helpful to understand. Because sometimes I think we forget that, you know, the sort of averages are a lot lower than we think. For example, email opening rate is around 15 to 25%. Of course, it depends on your industry, but knowing these allows you to set yourself a benchmark, which I think is really helpful, because our expectations can always be really high. I remember when I first started my business, I was like, oh, well, I'll have, you know, 20 people sign up to my new offering, and I had like 200 followers. So it doesn't work out well with the, you know, the conversion rate. Of course, like you can have a higher conversion rate, which is awesome, and a lot of people do, but also just setting yourself a benchmark, I think, is really valuable. Does anyone have any questions about the template? If not, I'll go back into the presentation. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions about using the template, getting the most out of it, how I use it. Just feel free. This is as much as an open floor for you guys to chitty chat and ask me any questions. But I want to know what your numbers are telling you. So if anyone would like, I would love to make this interactive. So I'm more than happy to, you know, hot seat this. Has anyone done the pre-work or started filling out this template? Let me know. I want to hear from you guys, even if it's in the chat or if you want to unmute yourself. I have not done the pre-work. That is fine, Jody. It was just looking at the template and starting to fill in the numbers, right? Starting to look at, and it was just an option for people to start typing in. And that's why I want to give you guys some time, or I need to stop saying guys. It's just such a habit. Give everyone a chance to fill in the template today, but I just sent it to everyone if you wanted to start filling it out. But does anyone, I want to know, pop in the chat or unmute yourself. Where does most of your traffic come from? Do you know? And is this just an assumption based off where you spend most of your time? Because a lot of the times, and I did this, I was like, oh, it's Instagram, but actually it's not. Mine is organic search. And it was just because I was spending more time on Instagram. I just assumed it was Instagram. Jade said Instagram. Jenny says, I have more people on Facebook. But is that where you get most of your traffic to your website? Or is it just because you have more people there? Instagram. Yeah, more people. So it's interesting because I think, and I also sent everyone a video. I don't know, Sabrina says Instagram. If you had a chance to look at it, but it was showing you how to check on Google Analytics where all of your traffic is coming from. Now, does anyone look at their Google Analytics? And if so, how often? And if not, that is definitely something that you want to start adding into your monthly, weekly, or quarterly routine. Weekly would be amazing. I had a podcast guest come on the other week and she said daily, and I haven't got to daily. That's probably not going to happen, but this is not actually creating more time for you. It's saving you more time because it's telling you where to focus your marketing strategy. So does anyone have Google Analytics set up, and how often do you look at it? Pop in.
Hey, Mariah, it's Jane here. I thought I might actually hop in with a real human voice. So, you know, there's actually a person hiding behind the no camera. And apologies, everyone, like all of us, my mornings tend to be pretty busy and I had to get out and walk the dog. So I'm now getting ready for work, and trust me, you don't want to see that.
Thank you for joining.
I need to pipe in and say I'm in the fortunate position where I have a little team that works with me at RSPCA Australia. So we have a fantastic guy who's a digital marketing and strategy lead, and he manages all of our Google Analytics.
Yeah.
And we have a wonderful social media officer as well who kind of tracks our social media performance. So I'm thinking now I should have brought them along to this because they will be able to answer all your questions. And that is, I definitely know that while I suspect many people are in this boat, while we would say that measurement and monitoring is crucially important to us, and we know it's important, whether they get a chance to do it as often as they would like, I'm sure they don't, but certainly at least monthly. And I think I'm sure they're working towards weekly as well.
Yeah, no, and it's just one of those things we push it aside because it's an ad, like it can be very an admin role. And sometimes we're like, oh, the admin always gets pushed aside. I mean, I know in my own business that happens, but thank you for sharing that, because it's, even when you have a team, sometimes it doesn't always get, done. And even myself, I know how important my numbers are, and I do it every month. I do it weekly, but I sit down, I'm like, oh, how can I make this more fun? Because I am not a numbers gal. Like I know how important, but what I start to do is I let those numbers tell me a story. I help myself with my storytelling sort of aspects of me to be like, okay, I can learn about my audience in a way of telling a story. And why did they do this? And why did they do that? And even if we don't 100%, it's like, for example, if you're in business and you had a radio ad, you can't exactly track the rate, like the amount of people that listen to your radio ad and go to your website. But if you're having more direct traffic, you can make the assumption that that radio ad is working. So that's rather than looking at the number, we can look at the story that it's telling us. Then we go, okay, that's working for us. But yeah, it's definitely something, like it's a habit builder, and it just becomes part of your habit. And that's why having these sort of spreadsheets and things like that are really valuable, because they take out that chunk of time that you would, where am I going to put this? Like, am I just going to screenshot it and leave it on my phone? What am I going to do with this? And how am I going to make sure that I keep looking at it? And that's why having it in one space, I think, is really important. And when I created this template and started using it, that habit started to build. So I was like, every week I look at my numbers, and it doesn't, it maybe takes me 5-10 minutes each month. It takes me a little bit longer each quarter. Of course, it takes a bit longer, but now I remember schedule in time for that. So thank you for sharing that, Jane. It's awesome to have a team to help with that. I'm looking at ways at how I can get someone in my team to record the numbers, because I think, and if anyone at some stage outsources, gets a VA, it's something that they can help you with. Just, they don't have to analyze them, but just putting the numbers in that spreadsheet will help you look at everything, look at the certain posts that are working, look at the blogs that are working, because this is helping you create the content. This is saving you that time sitting down and planning. You might be taking you hours to create a certain amount of reels per week. And maybe there's only one reel that does really well. And it's not based off the likes and yes, okay, the reach, but maybe the weeks that you do those certain reels, you get more profile visits, you get more website traffic. Now, of course, reels is limited in the way that we can track everything, but then you go, okay, that reel takes me 10 seconds to create, and I just need to do 3 of them, rather than those really longer reels that take me a lot of time and I don't see the benefit. And I think a lot of the times we create certain pieces of content because it's just part of our strategy, and we don't tweak the strategy. And I'm being guilty of that, Okay. So I want to give you some time, and I know some of you might not have it in front of you, but if you don't have the spreadsheet, make a copy of it. And if you need some help finding your analytics, I just want you to spend some time looking at the main channels that you use and start adding some numbers in here. Now, you don't have to finish it all, but then this is the chance that you can start sharing. You don't have to share your numbers. You don't have to tell us, but this is where you can start building those assumptions based off what you have discovered. Now, if you don't have Google Analytics set up, or you don't know how to use it, let me know and I can give you a quick demo. But I really want you, even if it's you just pick one channel, even if a lot of you have said Instagram is where most of your traffic comes from, even if you want to go onto Instagram, click on your insights, go into the posts section and look at the most trending posts for the last 30 days or the last quarter. We can look at the last quarter, but I want to give you some time to actually do that, and then unmute yourself or ask any questions in the chat, share with us what you've found. And then we can start making assumptions and putting things in place to test for Q2. And then after that, we'll go through mapping out your Q2 goals and looking at, I've got a sheet as well that I want to share with you all that you can use. It's something that I use to sort of do more of a qualitative view of my month rather than just the numbers and the quantitative. So I'm going to give you some time. I don't know if I'm on schedule, but I want to give you a bit of time just to even just have a think about it. Start writing some things down. Like, what are some things that you want to try in Q2, but you're actually not sure if they're going to benefit you? And then we can I can ask you the right questions that can help you. So I'm going to have some radio silence so you can do that. But just make sure you pop in and ask me any questions. Of course, someone comes to the door with a package when I'm on a call.
Oh my gosh, that always happens.
Oh, doesn't it? And you yell real loud.
Yeah. Love it.
You hear that? Yeah, thank you. He loves life, that guy.
Love it.
Ah, so good. Also, one thing I do want to share, when I did my Q end of year and sort of Q4, it really helped me prioritize my goals for 2022 rather than adding so many things to my to-do list and so many little projects. I was actually able to map out my projects and focus on one thing each quarter. And what I found in my team, because most of the projects that we do in our business, and I know most of the projects that I do, especially if you're, you know, a solopreneur working for yourself, is like basically around the online marketing stuff, you know, whether it's a project of launching something and you want to do a launch plan of how you're going to launch it on social media, whether it's your freebie, like creating an ebook to or a course to help build your funnel on email marketing. There's always like a project that's going to help us grow our, you know, our online community. And I found my poor team, especially Shannon in my team, who helps me with a lot of things, there was just always a project, like literally, okay, we'll finish that one, on to the next one. And it got really hard for me because I was just working a lot on all these various projects. So what helped me when I knew, okay, I knew at the end of the year that, as I said, email marketing was my biggest sales channel. Instagram and as a social media platform was more of that, the top of my funnel rather than the bottom. And it really helped me build my email list. When I worked out that blogging generated a lot of traffic to my website, then I could make like really aligned projects that helped for the specific platforms on what they actually do for my business. And so Q1's goals was all about building up my email list and creating my quiz and, you know, creating various things that were reviewing my email marketing strategy and what I did with that. And Q1 just become one project, not a heap of projects. Q2 is my website because for building up my email list and generating leads, if lots of people coming to my website from Google, I need to make sure that it's, you know, it's aligned with my brand, all those sorts of things, because I got it done in 2020. So Q2 is my website. And then my Q3 goal is all about, I'm going to dive into different forms of marketing, like paid marketing and things like that. So I was able to, rather than doing it all in one quarter, break it out and do it in the quarters that worked well. Like there was no point me starting paid marketing now if my funnel wasn't fixed, if my sales funnel and my emails weren't all aligned to what I was creating, if they were old. So I needed to do that before I could move to the next step. So that also was something I think helped me a lot. Has anyone found anything interesting that they want to share? I know you're getting ready for work, Jane, but is there anything within RSPCA that your team finds interesting when they do the stats? Was there things that you shifted or changed based off the numbers that you found? And if you can't talk, that's all good, but I'm just keen to, it's so interesting when you start actually focusing on what the number, because for so long I was just doing the things that, and also it's about creating on the channels that you love as well. But I think I was focusing on the wrong areas that were draining me too, actually, because I was just I didn't stop creating.
That's a very, very good point. Sorry, bear with me, Mariah, to plug my microphone back in before
Okay.
I hit unmute. Actually, two interesting things we learned, which might be interesting to the group, whether they're directly relevant to your question or not.
Yeah.
But certainly, a bit as you've said, I guess in our work, what most people would sort of deal as sales, for us, it's supporter actions. So that's the key action we're looking for. It's when we email people and say, we need you to write to this MP, or we need you to sign this petition, or we need you to take this kind of action. That's our sort of key conversion. And exactly as you've said there, unequivocally our email marketing. We know that if we put out an EDM, we'll get a flood of responses straight off the back of that. And so we've consciously made the decision. And I guess also we share the same frustrations that everyone does, that just when you get your sort of Facebook audience working well for you, Mr. Zuckerberg pushes a button somewhere to tweak things, and suddenly you're not reaching people and they can't see what you're posting. And so I'm of a certain generation and age and tradition where I think I hate the idea that we would be investing so much in our social media audiences, but then potentially have the rug pulled out from underneath us. And so we've consciously been very much investing in that email marketing. And I tell anyone who asks me the same question, you've got to get people's details, and that's why that data is so important these days. But the other thing that was really interesting was that we had always thought that among our audiences there were people who cared about chooks and people who cared about horses and people who cared about dogs, and we'd say, oh, we've got some news about eggs or battery cages. We need to identify our chook people because they'll care about this and they'll want to respond to this. Now there's something happening in horse racing. Where are our horse people? They'll want to hear about this. Yeah. And then when as I said, my wonderful digital marketing strategy guy actually dug into our list, he said it's not categorized that way at all. What it is about 40% of our list take action on absolutely everything and 60% don't. And they don't care whether it's chooks or horses or dogs or whatever. They are here to take action. That's why they follow us, because they are engaged as advocates and they want to act on issues. And the other 60% are just there to, read nice stories and learn pet care information and hear about our news, and they might make donations and things like that, but they're not the ones who are taking actions. That was a really interesting learning for us, that we had been doing all this work previously to sort of segment these lists by who's taken action on all of our chicken-based campaigns and who's taken action on all of our dog-based campaigns. And in fact, it wasn't that split at all. It was who's taken action at all and who hasn't.
Yeah, that's actually it's really valuable information, because sometimes we want to learn as much as possible, but in other ways, we can spend a lot of time doing something that's probably not as valuable, where you could be segmenting 2 people rather than 4 or 5. So that's actually really interesting. Thank you for sharing that, because I think, especially we have tagging systems and it doesn't matter what kind of business you have, and sometimes we could be tagging and then not do what we need to do with the tags, but often we can just learn more by the action from the emails that we send to everyone and then segment from there. That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And I think too, with the last year when Instagram went down, I think a lot of people were like, oh, I need to get my email list sorted, because I think or my website sorted, because as you said, things can get taken out from underneath us. So yeah, very valuable insights there. So thank you for sharing that. I also I work for a startup. This might be valuable for a lot of people. And I've been learning about zero party data. Now, you don't need to know a lot about this, but essentially it's talking about getting information from your audience where they volunteer to give it up. So for example, when they fill out our forms, they give their email and their name. We don't know that much about one person from their name and their email. Now what businesses are trying to do, and as entrepreneurs we should be trying to do the same, is finding out more about our audience. That's why quizzes are becoming really popular, you know, and in the recent quiz that I did, I added in a question where I could learn more about my audience. What was their pain point with content creation? Didn't have anything to do with their answer, but it was really valuable to know. And now all these answers allow me to learn more about my audience, which can then also help the content I create. So zero-party data is about getting information from your audience that is really in depth, and they give it to you, they give it up easily. And then there's different types of data you can collect. Bigger businesses can buy data, or we all can, but you can buy people's data from online, which is not becoming as popular anymore. Or you can, as I said, get the very basic information about your audience. But the more you can learn about who's on your email list, you know, where there are some platforms that you can have that tell you where they're from, but how can you learn more? What can you do to learn more about your audience? And often you can do that by, as Jane said, you can tag people when they click on certain things on your emails, which can be really useful as well. But it just depends on how in depth you need to go with that. But so anyone found by looking around at their data, or does anyone need help? I'm here to help you look at your numbers, to inspire you to do it, and to, you know, you need to, stepping into that role as the CEO means being able to make decisions based off what you know in your data, based off, you can make assumptions and test them. And yes, okay, if they don't 100% work, that's fine. You cross that off and you try something new. So I'm keen to know if anyone found anything interesting.
I found something that didn't add up. For instance, for the reach, I went like week by week, and then I put that down, and then I wanted to know like for overall for the month.
Yeah.
And that for instance, the reach for the month is less than if I put week 1, week 2, and week 3 and week 4 together.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I'm like, what? And the same happened for like interactions as well. So I'm like, is Instagram playing with me? Because
numbers? Well, also depending if, for example, if that week started on Monday, the 28th of March and ended in April, for example, then it's probably calculating a bit of April. But then when you do,
no, I actually, in my month, I only did 4 weeks. And in my month, there's actually more in my month. So the opposite could be true, but not this. Like, yeah, I'm confused.
Sometimes for example, you might find your Google Analytics are a little bit different to your Instagram. So it might be, there are some discrepancies, but I haven't seen that happen. So that's interesting.
Oh, I'm right straight. I'm like in Instagram to do all of this.
Yeah, in
and
Instagram.
Like for instance, for like, because it's one of my clients' account.
Yeah.
And like for instance, I'm going through like their back when they didn't have any help compared to now.
Yeah.
And so for January, I did every week separately, and like overall it was 12 interactions.
Mm-hmm.
Like accounts engaged.
Yeah.
And then now I'm checking for January 1 to January 31st, and now they're like, no, it was only 8. And I'm like, but you said 10 and then 2. And I'm like, okay. So Instagram is confused, I think.
I think sometimes, and I mean, you know, obviously the most important thing is, you know, with our numbers is not focusing too much on obviously it tells us where we're at, but even looking at, you know, what type of content was posted in that month compared to, say, if February was less, you know, that's when we do those like compare, or we look at the actual content that did well. But yeah, it can be really annoying when the platforms don't 100% line up. I haven't had that happen on Instagram, but I've had it happen between Google Analytics and Instagram. Like the website taps are different, and I'm like, well, which one do we go with? We go with the higher one. We go with the one, but just have a think about in terms of in January, if it was less compared to February, if it was more compared to February, you know, what was the difference between those 2 months? what were you doing in that month? A lot of the times, and how I work is I create content for like kind of in a 2-week block, depending on what my podcast is. And I always try and look at what kind of content I was creating in that month, and why, you know, if my podcast has gone up or gone down, why? Like what is happening? And that's when we can start asking ourselves those questions to really help us make decisions on what the marketing efforts are for the next quarter, what the marketing efforts are. And to be honest, if I do something in January, February, and I'm looking at it each month, and March, I've already got my plan, I generally start making major changes each quarter. That's why I've done this workshop, because each quarter we've got 3-month periods. This is when you want to start looking at making bigger changes and making those assumptions and tweaks and changes. Thanks. Oh, okay, I've gone back. Okay, well, does anyone else have anything to share? This is something you can continue to work on. I just wanted you to really start thinking about, you know, we made that assumption that these were the channels that worked for me. Is that true? And you can go back and look at the email. I'll make sure when I send the replay, I send also those 2 videos. I mean, Instagram Insights, I think everyone's quite comfortable with. If Google Analytics is something you're not comfortable with, I'll send a video on how to look into it. But Google Analytics is going to tell you where your traffic is coming from. And that's really important for making your assumptions and testing. But did anyone have anything they wanted to share before we look at Q2? Okay, cool. So now we want to look at, okay, what are our Q2 goals? But first we need to look at Q1. So I've got a Word document that I want to share with you all. Go back. Let me exit. Okay, this document. So I have created this based off what I use. I use it in ClickUp. It's very much the same, but I just want to make sure that you have access to it, that there's no restrictions. Yes, there is. You can make a copy of this and start reviewing your Q1. I've popped it in the chat, and I'll put everything in an email as a replay, but you want to start looking at what worked well, what was achieved, what didn't work well, and what will you try next month, and then reviewing what was your priority for the month. Then I also map out all my goals, and I start, like, if I had goals for that quarter, what I do is I make goals for the quarter, then goals for the month. Now you can also add these goals into your content marketing strategy. I have a Trello template which has that all laid out for you. Let me know if you want it. I can, I'm conscious of time. But it's a Trello template that maps out your whole content marketing strategy, and then you can add your goals. And you can start reviewing those goals for the last quarter. If you didn't have a lot or you didn't have any, that's fine. You can start using this moving forward. What I also do is I add the channel that I used in that month, all the general channels that I use. I write in the comments around what happened on that channel, and then what was my goal. And I also evaluate whether that goal was reached, what happened. And I do this every quarter. You don't have to do this one every month. It's just a really good check-in. It's, as I said, it's more the qualitative than the quantitative. And then I looked at what I launched, what projects I did, and then you can also add in the finances. This is a main business one rather than just content marketing. But then you want to start doing those check-ins around each quarter. And this is a similar thing to in here. Mapping out all the channels. So you can also just use this, or you can use this document, because this document here is mainly like a map, like your whole business, whereas this one is each channel. And that's when you start building on the assumptions, start working out the goals for the next quarter. But you have to make sure that you've looked at all the different platforms that you show up on, what's working, what's not. And for the quarter, it does, you know, it might take a little bit more time. And that's why, obviously, next time I think I'll do a little bit longer session so that we can go through it. I want to run these each quarter. It's just more of an accountability thing to get you all looking at the numbers, making those assumptions, and then start testing them. And then next quarter, we can come back and go, okay, from the last session, I made an assumption that email marketing, blogging, and Instagram were going to be my 3 main channels for the next quarter. And I did that for 3 months, and now I want to see if it worked well for me or if it didn't. Now, of course, things take time in marketing. We need to give it space, but we want to just keep making those assumptions and keep testing them. Did anyone have any questions about this document? I've put it in the chat so you can download it. But as I said, I'll email it out to you. You can start filling it in now and having a think about, what worked well, what didn't, what did I achieve? What were my priorities? For example, I mentioned that my priority for the quarter was focusing on my email list. Did I achieve that priority? Did something happen? Did something shift? And okay, does that then change how things happen next month? So it's because if I didn't reach that goal, do I need to shift things? And that's a really good way to check in and look at what then becomes the main projects, the main focuses for the next month. I'm just going to stop sharing so I can get back to my slides. Does anyone have any comments or questions, or even things that you want to try? What's everyone wanting to try in Q2? If you've started looking at the numbers and you're thinking, okay, I'm going to try something new, what's everyone committing to next quarter?
Maria, it's Sabrina speaking here.
Yes, Sabrina.
Yeah. Do you think that this channel, like audios or video, it's getting maybe more profitable for Instagram or for everywhere, for every channel actually, than copywriting?
Very good question. So obviously we've been told by channels like owners of Instagram that video is going to be more powerful. We can see the rise in podcasts. We can look at the stats and see, yes, we can make an assumption that video and audio are, people are consuming and engaging in this content. But every piece serves its own, every piece makes up the puzzle. So it's then working out, okay, first thing is, what channels do I love? What ones light me up? Because when you create content, and it might be a little bit different for Jane working in a company that has a team and there's a multiple faces for the brand. But Sabrina, right now, you are the face of your brand. So you need to work out what channels light you up. Where are you most energetic in your writing? Are you most energetic when you show up? Of course, showing up on camera, all of us can share our energy. So it's always valuable. But it's having a mixture of both and then working out what one you love the most, how you can focus your attention on that and see where the payoff is. So I know you love reels. So is your energy going into your reels, and then working out which reels do you love creating, but then which reels are working the best in your business. And for example, my client always wanted to start a podcast. So she was like, I'm going to start a podcast. And she finally started it after consuming podcasts, learning about podcasts. And that is like her channel. And she loves creating her podcast, and she's gotten leads through her podcast, people that have found her randomly through Apple. And she's focused her energy on growing that podcast, rather than working on a channel that she outsources her social media, she outsources her blogs, and then she focuses on her podcast. So it's working out not only, yes, where people are recommending to go, but where do you love to go? What channels light you up? And then when you build a team or you grow or you outsource, however you see your business going, then you can start focusing your energy in one pocket and then having, people help you in other areas, or you just stay in your little pocket because you love your podcast and you can repurpose your podcast, or you can repurpose your videos into different types of content, still be consistent, and then, start building from there. So I hope that's answered your question. I think it's about right now, that's your assumption, Sabrina. Your assumption is video. So if you try that for 3 months, see how it works. Maybe it's different forms of video that you try as well.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So Jane said, we've started experimenting with posting about the same topic at the same time each week, but seeing different techniques, approaches, mainly to see whether our poorer performing content is performing poorly because of the subject matter or other. That's awesome. It's like, okay, if this content is not working, is it because of this or this? And you can start narrowing that down, right? And I think that's awesome. Yeah, I think I was like, but using, yeah. I think that's so. And when we And it doesn't mean that an assumption has to work. When we make an assumption, if it fails, we know it doesn't work and we move on, but we don't know until we try these things. It's never wasted time. It's just getting you further to the space that you need to be. So never see these creating content as, you know, wasted time. It's always getting you to where you need to be. So I love that, Jane. I think that's so cool. Does anyone have anything else to share? And I'm going to wrap up. I do have something else I want to share at the end. But yeah, does anyone else have anything else they want to share? Any insights or any feedback or comments? Cool. So let me...
Mariah, how long do you spend on this? Like, how long would you spend on doing your analytics?
Yes, awesome.
Like, just to gauge, I think that's probably a good question, because people are always like, oh, but it takes so long, or oh, how much time should I allocate myself? Or
yeah, that's a good question, because I think the more frequently you do it, the less time it's going to take you, right? So thanks so much, Jane, for joining. That was awesome. I'll send everyone the replay so you can go back and spend some more time. But usually I spend each week like 5 to 10 minutes looking at Google Analytics and Instagram and email marketing, because they're kind of like, there's no point me looking at my podcast each week, because if I post a podcast on a Tuesday and look at it on a Friday, it's not really going to tell me everything. So I'll spend 10 minutes noting down the numbers, making some like slight observations. And then each month I probably spend about 45 minutes to an hour going over more in-depth stuff for the content marketing side of things. So I'll go through each section on Instagram, which is in the sheet, you know, reach, engagements, follows, website taps. And it doesn't matter if there's none for that month. It's just maybe you didn't ask people to go to your website as much that month. And I worked that out. I was like, from my personal page, I was like, oh, I didn't get, you know, some of my posts didn't get website taps, but it's like, I didn't ask people for that. So now I need to start asking more people to go to my website. Like, you start to work out what you do and you don't do. So yeah, spend about 45 minutes to an hour going through the podcast, the email marketing, and then I just start making notes. Similar to that table I showed you where it said channel, comments, goals, because I have monthly goals as well, but you could just have quarterly for your content marketing. And I just start writing things down. I send that to my team because I think that's really valuable for them to know if we reached a goal or if we didn't. And then in the end of the month, in the quarter, I probably spend an hour looking at the last quarter. But this can become quite easy once you've already done each month, right? You just fill in the blanks. So it might not even take an hour. It could take a short amount of time, but then I spend more time planning Q2. So maybe about an hour, but I don't do this in one day. At the moment, I'm going to trial one day of a quarterly review, but that's my whole business. That's not just my marketing. But you know, you could spend little pockets of half an hour and maybe it takes you 2 hours a quarter. But you do it across a few days. You can spend as little or as much time as you want, but I would allocate, if you're doing it weekly, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour at the end of the month, and maybe, an hour and a half, 2 hours at the end of the quarter. But if you think, if I do these every quarter for an hour and a half, we do that. And this is the first one I've ever done. So I'd love feedback on what you want more time. Do you want more time brainstorming? Do you want more time looking at your numbers? I know I only allocated an hour, but maybe next quarter, it's a bit longer, but I hope that helps, Leanne.
That's great. Thank you.
Cool. Now, I'm just going to quickly wrap up because there's a next step. Why I wanted to do this workshop is because I wanted people to start taking action on the right content, the right channels, and have that holistic marketing approach to your business. Even if you are a solopreneur, there are things that you can be doing to make it easy for you you don't have to show up on all the channels. That's not what I'm saying, but finding the right channels for you. And there is a few people in the group that are already in this, but really after leaving this workshop, the worst case scenario is you don't implement anything. You keep doing what you're doing and you get the same results. Because we know if we do the same thing, we get the same results. The results might be awesome, so that's great. But if you get help and guidance to support the marketing strategies you want to try in Q2, you can implement them, have accountability and guidance, and get the tools and resources to get you started. For example, Sabrina, you want to start email marketing. Maybe you're blocked writing your emails. If there's certain areas that you're just like, I want to start this, or maybe a podcast and you're not sure where to start. Often we get very stuck in procrastination, I have a podcast coming out next week with an amazing guest who will probably be watching the replay about procrastination. So it's about getting the support and taking action and implementing, testing, trialing, measuring, and seeing if it works. And if it doesn't, you cross that off and you try something new. Of course, giving it time to implement rather than trying it for a week. So that is why I'm reopening my Content Queen membership. And this is a content templates, guides, resources membership that is here to help you take that action, make those assumptions in your marketing, and then head to the membership, find the template, the resource, the guide that you need, and then implement action and do what you need to do. I think, and also as Jenny just said, she's in, I have a Slack community, and it's about, if there's a certain guide or resource, it's a certain channel you want to start on. We have a Slack community. You could just utilize me to help you get it started. I give content ideas each month. It's just this membership to take action. It doesn't mean you have to spend hours in it. It's not like a time where you have to, I do have monthly calls. They're not mandatory, but it's not, you have to invest more time. It's actually here to help you save time and take action and, start that podcast without procrastinating, measure your content, see what's working, and then realize you need to focus energy in one place. Come to the membership, find the resource that you need to get started on that, and then do the thing. So in it is this membership portal I upload new things each month. We have monthly guides. We have a Slack community where it's, you can share for feedback. You can ask questions. You can, collaborate with others in the group, whatever you need. But it is just one of those memberships where you invest as much as you need at the time that you're in it. So as I said, it's got a Slack community where I'm here to help you as a cheerleader, but we've got other people that own their own businesses, probably going through the same struggles. There's how-to guides and resources, things like, SEO and keyword research, how to repurpose your content, all sorts of things on social media, templates for captions. And I'm also getting other freelancers to contribute things in their area of expertise to just help us, with our content marketing channels and our marketing efforts. And then there's already pre-filled out templates, like, as I said, social media posts. There's hashtags, hashtag pods that you can use, email sequences that you can get started on, newsletter guides, how to do your own branding shoot. There's lots of things. I'm uploading stuff every month. I love creating it. So what's the cost? It is $35 normally a month, or $350 a year. But because you're on this workshop, I've done it at an early bird offer. You'll get an email with all of this, but it's $25 per month, or $260 for 12 months. But yeah, it honestly has everything. Thank you, Jenny. I'm loading stuff all the time. I actually love creating the templates. So because, you joined the membership, there's a discount code called Early Bird, which I'll pop in the chat, and I'll pop the link if you want to check it out now. But yeah, I'm excited to launch this again and open it up for you guys, for you all. Oh my God, it's a habit. But yeah, there's an early bird offer. You'll get an email with all of this, but I'll put a link in the chat. Thank you so much for joining. You can follow me on Instagram. I think a lot of you already are, and connect with me. But I've loved taking you through this all. I'm going to pop if you want to learn more about the membership, I should have had that already sorted, but of course I didn't. And yeah, you get a discount code with Early Bird if you pop that in the checkout, but I'll send you this all out in email. And yeah, if you have any questions, just message me somewhere at some point, and I will send you all the replay and you can go through it. But just open yourself up to some space this week, or moving forward, to just look at the numbers and just start empowering yourself with the numbers. And yes, Jenny said, if you have any questions about the membership, message her. Thank you, Jenny. So good. You're the best. But yeah, have a good day. Thank you. Sorry, I went over a little bit of time. That's confirmation that it needs to be longer next time. But also any feedback on what you need more help with for next time would be amazing. But thank you so much.